as the ideal setting to raise a family. With a population of 130,000, Thousand Oaks is located in Ventura County, bordering the greater Los Angeles area. Popular tourist destinations, International Airport, and numerous attractions are just a short drive away. Leaving the frenetic lifestyle to LA, Thousand Oaks instead invests in a slower, small-town feel while affording all the comforts and refinements expected of a modern metropolitan area.
If you live in the high-risk wildfire areas of Southern California, known as the urban interface, you also live with the year-round possibility of a wildland brush fire.
Southern California fire chiefs urge you to take personal responsibility and prepare now for this year's fire season. A new program can help. It's called Ready, Set, Go.
To get ready, a free wildfire action plan will help teach you to better prepare your home to be more fire resistant.
Are you set? When fire weather is predicted, monitor your local news for updates and prepare yourself and your family by having a disaster plan and checklist.
When the fire comes, don't wait for your local police officers to give you an evacuation order. Leave early and let your local firefighters work to save your home.
For your free copy of the Ready, Set, Go Wildfire Action Plan, visit your local fire department's website or your local fire station.
Hello, my name is Scott Bauer with the Ventura County Sheriff's Office.
And my name is Carl Patterson, the Ventura County Sheriff's Search and Rescue.
Flooding is the most common type of natural disaster and the #1 weather-related killer. We are here to remind you, turn around, don't drown.
Protect yourself. Stay away from creeks and channels during storms. If you see someone in the water, do not try and rescue them. Call 911. Do not get in the water or you too may also become a victim.
Be water safe.
The Ventura County Sheriff's Office and Search and Rescue remind you, turn around, don't drown.
Thank you.
The #1 problem that we have is people wandering continuously. As we're trying to locate them, they're continuing to move further and further away from our location. Today we're looking for Trevor. He's 8 years old. He's got brown hair. He's about 52 inches tall. He's wearing a red t-shirt, short brown pants, tennis shoes. Medina and Holden, we're going to start on the east end and work in. And then Alarcon and Bachelor, you two are going to start at the Los Robles trailhead and you're going to work up so that we cover the perimeter. Okay, grab your gear and let's get going. So the idea is to teach them to stay put in one spot and to remain calm so that we can find them quicker.
Trevor!
Trevor, can you hear me?
Rescue 360.
Welcome, everyone, to the Conejo Open Space Conservation Agency. This is our meeting of November 18th, and I hope you will all join me in the salute to the flag.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May we have the roll call, please?
Director Bill de la Pena.
Here.
Director Gibson.
Here.
Director Jones.
Here.
Vice Chair Fox, absent. Chair Skay.
Here. Thank you. We have a quorum. Under public comments, I have 2 speaker cards and 2 statement cards. Gina Smurthwaite.
Thank you. Gina Smurthwaite, Thousand Oaks. I'm here to talk about a request about the Glider Hill Trail. Since the city, I guess we say the city, put in the crossing, the traffic light. I'll get it. Yeah, the traffic light and the trail, the fenced-off trail there on Herbs Road. Once that was finished, a white fence mysteriously appeared from Lone Oak coming down, and it's strictly my assumption that was probably from the owner of the property. Part of it that runs the same way that Lone Oak does has been fenced off, but we weren't restricted, but we had plenty of access to get up to Lone Oak and then up the rest of Glider Hill. And so, like I said, this fence mysteriously appeared, and I'm going to assume it was the owner. I don't know that for a fact. That's strictly my assumption. But and then all of a sudden the gate mysteriously was opened at the top there so we could get through. And then mysteriously all the flora and fauna that was in the middle of the trail disappeared. And then the gate was locked, and then a no trespassing sign appeared. So it's, like I said, it's just strictly my opinion, but it looks like the owner of the property had some good intentions to see that there was a lot of horse traffic, that we needed access there. Unfortunately, the trail, air quotes here, the trail that he made is only 3 feet wide. And so that's about the back end of a horse, is 3 feet wide. So it's really still impossible for us to use that. You have to, well, I don't even know if Tina, she's tiny and she has a tiny horse. I don't even know if she can get up there. But it is very difficult. And so we don't have unfettered access to open space at all. And I feel that we have prescriptive easement rights to this property because we have used it openly and notoriously for way more than 5 years, probably at least 50 or 60 years we've used the property with never having any obstructions or restrictions on the property. We've just been allowed to use it. And and we've had continuous and uninterrupted use of that trail, of their access to the property to go up. Our trail, the trail that this gentleman made is there's a house on one side with a brick wall, with a cement wall, and then his plastic fence is to the 3 feet away from that. So it's not an ideal situation by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm here to respectfully request that we have legal access. Make that. I know that there's a dispute whether that's one piece of property or 2 pieces of property, but I know there is an easement recorded on the far end of the property which we can't get to at all. And so it seems to me that the property owner would like to have one 10-foot trail rather than 3 10-foot trails around his property. Would be easier to have the one there. So I would like to respectfully request that you do what you can to expedite this. I know Shelley and Susie, Mrs. Mason, and I had been on the property in September, and it's changed. The parameters have changed several times since then. So we would really like to have you do your thing, wave your magic wand, whatever it is, so that we can have an actual legal access trail to go up Glider Hill and continue that. Because at the point we are literally blocked from open space at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mirthwaite. Next up is Tina Angoli.
Hello.
If I mispronounced your name, I apologize.
That's okay. It's Frugoli. It's hard even if I wrote legibly, I think. So I'm here for the same reason, that we're blocked from the open space from Herbs up to Glider Hill. And I I just want to ask if we can get this on the agenda in the near future, so we can discuss it. And we do have other concerns about that trail. It's blocked below Lone Oak right now, but then we've heard that the property above Lone Oak, it's 3 lots and they want to build there. So that's going to be a concern soon. And then right now at the bottom of Lone Oak and Hillcrest, that trail is blocked because of development. And at Conejo School Road and Hillcrest, the development there has been blocking the trail for at least 5 years. So we just kind of we're worried about our access to the trails. And where we live, that's it. I mean, we'd have to walk up La Granada or some street. So we'd love to get it on the agenda and kind of specifically start with the one right below Lone Oak, but address the whole thing. Look at it. That's all.
Thank you very much.
May I ask a question, Madam Chairman? May I ask a question of the speaker?
Yeah.
Yes. How did you earlier get up to the top there? What route did you go up Lone Oak on your horses, or?
We come from Conejo Oaks area, so we go through Hauser Circle, and some of us are from Hauser Circle, and then cross at the church. The church has the trail, the easement, and then behind the church there was a property that's the one Gino's referring to that somebody just let us ride there for years and didn't care. But that seems like it was recently purchased or something happened and a fence went up. And the trail that he put up, I mean, he put the fence 3 feet from the wall, so maybe he was trying to give us a trail. I have no idea. But it's also that plastic fencing, the PVC. So it's very dangerous. I mean, if it's going to be PVC, it has to be 10 feet wide, because if a horse bumps into that, those things just shard, and it's ugly. So, it needs to be wider.
As the previous speaker noted, you've been doing it for many years, I presume.
Yeah, yes. The first time I rode up there, I was probably 16, and I'm 49, so.
I had 2 daughters that used that trail. I used to live on Valley High.
Okay.
And they would go up that way,
So we want to keep it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also have 2 statement cards from Jeanette Welling and Elaine Boydston, also concerned about access to Glider Hill.
Madam Chair, may I ask the attorney a question? Do we have Felicia? Yes. I spoke to you earlier. Do they have the first speaker used some very good legal words dealing with prescriptive rights? If they've been doing that for 10 or 15 years or more, do they have?
I would need to have a lot more information.
Right.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to agendize it, Madam Chair.
Well, we will refer the matter to staff.
Thank you.
And see what, for some investigation. All right. Let's see. Next up, presentations and announcements. The Conejo Open Space Trails Advisory Committee reports, and Ray Mocha. I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Raymond Mocha. I'm a member of the Conejo Open Space Trails Advisory Committee. I'm here to report on our recent outreach event on National Public Lands Day this past September 26th. With the help of our rangers, a reception canopy was set up at the Moore Park Road trailhead and at Wildwood Park. I want to thank the other members of the Trails Advisory Committee who volunteered that Saturday to help man our tables. At each location, our representatives interacted with at least 3 dozen parkgoers. Many questionnaires were completed by these visitors, and these are still being processed. We gave away many of our trail bells. They are used by bikers, hikers, and equestrians. They help people know others are in the park and maybe nearby. At each location, we told about Trail Work Day coming up, information on which you will hear about later in this meeting. We were even able to secure a few modest but important donations, for which we are very grateful. In general, the people we spoke with were very appreciative. An interesting conversation I had with a man I met at Wildwood Park said, and I paraphrase, that our parks are so beautiful, he can't believe more people don't know about them, and also he doesn't want more people to know about them. Nevertheless, a significant portion of the people we met at the trailheads were, in fact, visitors to the Conejo Valley. I want to thank you for your time this evening, and I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much for your report, Ray. Appreciate that. Next up, Ginny Bowers on Trail Work Day.
Good evening. I'm Jenny Bowers from Newbury Park. I'm also on the Cosca Committee and the Conejo Open Space Foundation. And I would just like to give a little report on our 25th annual Cosca Trail Work Day that was held on October 17th. And you all should have a wrap-up sheet on the back of your in your packet. It's got all the detailed information. It was a very successful event. Again, there was about 163 volunteers plus staff. And this 163 volunteers equates to about 815 volunteer hours working with these volunteers, working with CRPD and Cosca staff. And what they built a new connector trail off of Lizard Rock Trail by the Hill Canyon Treatment Plant. This connector could not have been completed without these relentless volunteers representing bicycle clubs, equestrian groups, geocachers, hiking clubs, Boy Scouts, and Trails Council and State Park Service people. After a morning of dirty, intense labor, all were treated to a barbecue where many donated prizes were given to lucky participants. The grand prize being a giant mountain bike. Not giant, brand giant. I'd like to thank we'd all like to thank all the volunteers, the staff, and sponsors in making this event so successful, and hope to see you all at the Spring Trail Work Day, tentatively scheduled for March 19th. Check the calendar at the Foundation website, which is www.cosf.org, or Conejo Open Space Foundation on Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bowers, and thanks to the staff and to the foundation and to COSTAC for putting this on. I can't believe it's been 25 years. It's a lot of hard work and really impressive, all the large monetary contributions from sponsors, too.
One correction on the wrap-up sheet, well, over halfway down where it's got 163 times 5 hours, it should be 815, not 680. I didn't see that.
So that's okay. Still impressive. Thank you. Oh, yes, Director Bill Della Pena.
Curious about that scorpion. A blue one. What kind of scorpion is that?
Matt?
It's just a regular local scorpion.
Are they blue?
Yeah. Yeah, they have a blue tinge to them, yeah.
I didn't know that. How big are they?
That one's about 3.5 inches.
Oh, it looked huge on TV.
It's
okay.
the magic of TV, yes.
I thought it was bigger. Okay. All right.
Okay. Ms. Mason, you were going to discuss Cosca Volunteer Corps activity.
Thank you, Chair Skay. The Volunteer Corps has been really busy over the last couple months in addition to the 2 events that you just heard about. The Trail Watch had 54 reports submitted for 78 volunteer hours, and the Adopt a Trail program had 18 reports filed for 32 volunteer hours, and 6 trails were adopted. So our volunteers are very active still.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Mason? No. All right. We'll go on to our Board of Directors meeting schedule for 2016. Oh, I'm sorry. I passed right over consent calendar. Thank you. Do I have a motion for the consent calendar, the approval of minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Gibson, seconded by Director Bill Della Pena. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Carries. Now we'll go on to the Board of Directors meeting schedule.
Thank you, Chair Skay. Regular board meetings are held at 6 p.m. quarterly on the second Wednesday of the month, with special meetings scheduled as needed. The 4 proposed meeting dates for 2016 are February 10th, May 11th, September 14th, and November 9th. And I'm available for questions.
Okay. Does that schedule meet with all the directors' approval?
Yes.
Okay. Do we need an action item on this? Do we
Move approval. We
Move.
don't need to. We do need to approve it.
Yes.
Okay, then move approval.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, that carries. Next up, we have our appointments to the Standing Committee on Naming.
Thank you. In 1997, the board adopted the open space and trail naming policy, and it's on page 10 of your packet. The policy states that the board shall appoint a standing committee on naming to recommend names for open space areas, trails, and natural features. The committee should consist of 2 board members and 1 COSTAC member. Board member Fox is on the committee currently, and the other 2 seats are vacant. COSTAC has nominated Olwen Kingery as their representative, and the board should nominate 1 member to complete the committee, and then appoint 2 new members to the committee. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have, yes, Director Gibson?
I would, seeing as the Park District seat is really the one that's open, I would like to nominate Mr. Jones
Okay.
to fill that seat.
So we have Mr. Jones nominated. Are you willing to accept this assignment?
Yeah, well,
Mr. Jones?
I'm on that committee with CRPD too, so I guess I'm getting naming experience. We just named Sapweed Trail, so
Okay.
if you like Sapweed Trails, that's the sort of thing you'll get from me.
Okay. Any other discussion on? I guess we would need a motion to appoint Mr. Jones and Olwen Kingery as the Standing Committee on Naming.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? That carries. Yes.
Have we gone through the whole process? Is it completed now with the Elliott Hill or whatever it was called? That's
Yes.
already been done.
Yes.
Did we have a little ceremony, or was that planned? Or
They had a hike up to the mountain. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was mostly geocachers and
I see.
The Santa Monica Mountains Trails
I see.
Council group.
Okay.
Mhm.
Very good. Thank
And
you.
family. Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we have the item authorization to grant an easement and right-of-way to Southern California Edison, approximately 980 square feet, located north side of Thousand Oaks Boulevard, 400 feet east of Via Merida. Ms. Mason?
Thank you, Madam Skay. The proposed easement, as you mentioned, is located on the north side of Thousand Oaks Boulevard, 400 feet east of Via Merida and west of Via Colinas, and it's directly adjacent to the sidewalk on the north side of the street. The Thousand Oaks Boulevard Utility Undergrounding Project will remove 1.5 miles of overhead electrical wires and 48 electrical poles between Duesenberg Drive and just east of Via Merida. The proposed SCE easement on Cosca land for the construction and maintenance of underground utilities and above-ground structures is the easternmost portion of the project. And the easement is 980 square feet. This is a view from Thousand Oaks Boulevard looking northwest. The easement is proposed on Cosca property. It's 4.5 acres in size, and it's in the North Ranch open space. So the easement is only 980 square feet, but it's on a much larger open space property. The property was transferred to Cosca from Prudential Insurance Company in 1986. And as you can see, the easement is located on gently sloping terrain on a parcel that's much hillier than the proposed location. This location is subject to annual brush clearance, so no native vegetation or trees would be impacted by this easement. In conclusion, the improvements that are proposed can't be accommodated in the public right-of-way or on another property. It's necessary to complete the long-planned Thousand Oaks Boulevard undergrounding project, and the project provides a clear benefit to city residents. Staff worked with the city and SCE to draft the easement and right-of-way document, and $900, a one-time $900 payment will be made to the Cosca Trust Fund should the board approve this easement.
Okay.
In conclusion, the staff recommends that the board authorize staff to execute the easement and right-of-way. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have a question? Director Bill De La Pena.
How did we arrive at the $900? Is that a standard fee?
It's based on our average price per acre for when we purchase it. So that was $40,000 an acre. So just calculated it that way.
Okay.
May I ask a question, Madam
Yes,
Chair?
Director Jones.
Shelley, is the line going to be laid in the side of the street, or is it up above the street on the like the curb or above the curb?
Within the easement area, are you asking?
No, that whole line that goes from Duesenberg to Merida.
We have the project engineer actually in the audience. Nader Haydari is here, so maybe he can answer any specific questions like that.
Would you
Why
come up
you
to
better
the
go to the
microphone,
mic.
if you would?
Thanks, Nader.
We just want to capture every word.
Good evening. Yeah, the project will be entirely constructed within the street.
In the street.
But as we get to the east and easterly and westerly ends at the terminus of the projects, we have to go rise back up the existing poles. And it's at those locations where we cross over the sidewalk and go back into outside of the right-of-way. And this is an example of what happens on the eastern end. And being that the Cosca property is so large there is no other real property to work with and find and try to locate to terminate the project.
So is there going to be a box or some
Yes,
structure
there's going to be 2 boxes there. They're typical looking transformer boxes in that location. But yeah, right behind the sidewalk, so they're not going to go well up into the open space or anything. But
I see. About what length of time do you think this project will consume?
Yeah, so tomorrow, or at the latest by the end of the week, we're sending out the bid package for the contractors to start bidding on the projects. We've completed the design phase. The next phase is the bid and award, and we anticipate awarding the project in the early part of 2016 and starting construction before spring even starts. So it's a long-term project, so by the time we complete all this work, there's 1.5 miles of work, and there's a lot of congested streets to go through. So it itself is going to take approximately a year, up to 14 to 16 months, with all the final buttoning up at the end and the pole removals which happen at the end. So,
and you're starting in the spring. You say you're starting
March. Yes,
March,
we're starting on the Duesenberg side on the west side, and then we're working our way easterly, and this is going to be the end of the project.
Thank you.
So it'll be a little while before we get to this point. Yeah. We're timing it in such that we encounter the high school elements in the summertime and kind of wind up here in the fall right afterwards. So we're trying to
go near the land that is Westlake High School. That will be, you say, in the summer when schools.
Yeah, that's we're making every effort to do that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Too crowded there in the regular times in the school year.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions of staff? Director Gibson.
No, I see no problem with this. It's a necessary project, so I'll move staff recommendation.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Definitely undergrounding utilities is generally a very good thing. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? That passes unanimously. Thank you. And on our next item, acceptance of Morrow Circle property donation, approximately 4 acres from the Conejo Recreation Park District, located at the southerly end of Morrow Circle. And I have 2 speaker cards. Mr. Macha, did he leave? Okay, never mind. And Jenny Bowers. 4A. Okay. We got you already.
Yeah.
We had a lot of emails coming in supporting this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Skye. The property offered for donation is located at the south end of Morrow Circle, and it has frontage on Herbs Road to the west and Wilder Street to the east. It's adjacent to privately owned natural open space to the north. Here's an aerial view of the property, and there's also one in your packet. It's 3.99 acres in size, and it slopes steeply from east to west and is covered with non-native grassland, and it's completely brush cleared. So Cosca will maintain the brush clearance should the property be transferred to Cosca. There are no official trails on the property. However, local residents access it just through informal paths. This is the view southeast from Morrow Circle, from the south end of Morrow Circle, so looking uphill. And then this is the view southwest looking towards Erbs Road, also from the south end of Morrow Circle. This property was acquired by CRPD in 1964, and the CRPD master plan identifies the site as a neighborhood park. The site conditions make park development difficult, and that area has already satisfied its park requirements. The property is zoned PL, and CRPD currently pays about $3,000 annually for brush clearance. And staff recommends that the board of directors authorize staff to accept the donation of Morrow Circle as open space. And I'm available for questions. Thanks.
And I will note that we did have at least 8 emails from supporters that live in the area asking that Cosca accept the property. Any questions of staff? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have one question.
Director Bill de la Pena is up
Oh,
first.
pardon me.
That's okay. Thank you. The neighborhood park was no longer feasible, and did the park district discuss any other options at all? If the any other use, I should say, under the current zoning?
Well, attached to the staff report is the staff report that Conejo Rec and Park staff prepared for the CRPD board. So we actually wrote about 3 different options, with the 4th being leave everything as is. So we basically said develop it as a full-blown park site, which would be expensive, involve a lot of grading, and may not even technically be feasible in terms of the kind of amenities that we would put in a typical park. Create something akin to a mini park, which we felt was something that was in line with what we had received in terms of a letter request from a representative of the HOA there. Which involved a little minor improvements, a couple benches overlook, trash can, maybe trails connecting Wilder to Morrow Circle or something. And then the other option was declare it surplus and sell it. So those were the options presented to the board, and the board had a discussion about all the options, heard from a lot of speakers, and ultimately decided they'd like to offer it up to Cosca, because I think in response to the interest in the community to leave it alone.
Okay, and since it's zoned PL, is there a desire to rezone it?
No.
I think maybe I can address that. The PL zoning is fine, but I think periodically the city initiates a zone change to rezone to the open space zone, properties that have been acquired for open space from whatever zone they started in. And the next time we do that, we would do that with this property as well.
Okay, because if the intent is to keep it open space, then we should rezone it. Otherwise, it still can be sold. And nothing precludes Cosca from selling this parcel if it's zoned PL. So, okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Jones, you had a question?
I wonder, well, we'll get into the pros and cons of this in a minute, but in looking at the map in attachment 1 on page 23, it looks as if this could be a trailhead going north, sort of northeasterly. I just wonder, I haven't gone up, Wilder lately to see if there might be an opening there, but does anyone know if one could use this as a trailhead to get out northeasterly?
The property that is adjacent to the north of this is private property, so there's really no adjacent open space to connect to as a trailhead.
On this map, it looks like there's open space, but I guess that's
just undeveloped private property. So if that were to be acquired as open space someday in the future, and there was a good trail alignment there there's potential that there could be a trail entrance there.
Yeah.
But we would have to review the whole, the topography and, obviously have public meetings and all of that.
Value of this parcel?
Okay.
Yeah.
While I have the floor, I guess, Mr. Friedel just explained that we did have a lengthy debate and heard testimony. And at the conclusion of the testimony, it was the consensus of our board that we not try to develop it and that we not sell it for. One of the options was to sell it to somebody who might develop it. And I believe the board was convinced that it is an asset to the neighborhood. I'm very familiar with it, having lived near there for many years. And I think that Director Gibson very wisely made the motion to make it available to Cosca. I don't believe Cosca has ever sold any land for development. Have we? We don't do that, don't we?
No, we haven't.
No, we haven't.
I mean,
and we don't do that. No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't want to start a tradition, so I would like to move that we. Oh yes, go right ahead, Mr. Gibson.
Well, I think you have to look at the practicalities of this piece of property. It's probably 18, 20, 23% slope for the most of the property. Even if we wanted to sell it, I'm not sure anybody would want to buy it. I think under the zoning, it would still require a vote to change the zoning to something more developable, correct? So that's a hurdle in this community. And, we really have no need, I think, as Mr. Friedel said, for, our park requirements in this area have been satisfied. So, for us to look and hold on to property, it makes no sense for us to do it. We do realize that there is maybe some connection issues, but I think as Mr. Jones correctly said, that, Cosca's never sold anything, and he'd really have to get behind two elected bodies as opposed to one elected body. So we felt it had much more stronger safeguards by handing it over to Cosca than leaving it to whoever succeeds, Mr. Jones, myself, and other members of the park board. So we felt that this was the prudent thing to do.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Also move.
All right. And a second. All right. Any other discussion on the motion? Yes.
Not on the motion, but this parcel was valued at about $380,000 at one time. But we don't know what the current value is.
Yeah, I believe we had an appraisal actually done in 2006 on the parcel. So
that was a long time ago.
380,000. So 10 years ago.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Could I make one more comment, Madam Chair?
Certainly.
Since this land is zoned as it is, one would really have to rezone it to have it worth very much money. And I don't believe now if we accept it here, there'd have to be a hearing here, and then there'd have to be a hearing before probably the Planning Commission and the City Council. And I think the good people of Morrow Circle and Wilder and parts in the immediate vicinity would not be very happy about that, and I don't believe it would go anywhere. So I think the safest thing is for us to keep this parcel and keep it in good natural condition for the residents.
Okay, thank you. If no other comments, all in favor of the motion to accept the open space, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Passes unanimously. Very good. Next up, our strategic plan annual report. Ms. Mason.
Thank you, Madam Skay. On January 5th, 2013, the board approved the Cosca strategic plan. At the heart of the strategic plan is the implementation actions table, which lists actions needed to accomplish Cosca's objectives and timeframes for completion of each action. Action 10.8 in the implementation actions table calls for periodic reviews of the strategic plan, and Action 10.8.1 recommends an annual status report. Attachment number 1 on page 38 of your packet describes progress on the action items identified in the ongoing and years 1 through 4 timeframes. Due to limited staff resources, Cosca's administrative emphasis has been on time-sensitive items such as open space purchases and donations in the areas of Skyline, Dos Vientos, Southern Ridge, and Rasnow, as well as responding to open space-related inquiries from the public. Ranger staff have constructed several trails in the Conejo Canyons and Wildwood open space and are implementing a uniform signage program throughout the open space. A draft fence management plan was developed and is currently under review, and the new Rancho Potrero trailhead and connector trail were completed and are accessible. Volunteer outreach has expanded, as you heard about with the National Public Lands Day outreach events, and a bell program that you also heard about was implemented to encourage cooperation among trail user groups. Staff will continue to implement the strategic plan to the greatest extent possible, and I'm available for questions.
Any questions of staff? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the recommendations? Oh, yes, go ahead.
Well, I move approval, but I want to say how I remain or continue to be amazed at how much work you have to do with little staff, or few staff members, not little staff, but few staff members. It's this is so important to the residents of Thousand Oaks, the city of Thousand Oaks, the protection and maintenance of our open space, and I just wish you had more help. Thank you.
Hear, hear. Do we have a
Thank
second
you.
to the motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. No opposition? Okay. On to information items. We have Mr. Prescott, legislative actions protecting open space.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board. At your last meeting, the board requested that we provide a report regarding the legislative actions that are in place that help protect our open space, and also a discussion of the expiration dates of those particular initiatives. And we provided the information, and we really start with Cosca's mission. Cosca was formed by the city and the Recreation and Park District for the purpose of acquiring, conserving, and management open space. So any open space that's under Cosca jurisdiction is really controlled by the board, and any effort for there to be any use other than open space on that land would have to first come before the board and have the board approval before going any further. Then at the city level, we have our general plan and zoning. Nearly all of the Cosca land is designated in the existing parks, golf courses, and open space category of the land use element of the general plan, and is zoned in the city's open space zone, which is a very restrictive zoning category. And we've attached a copy of those regulations that to the staff report. The city does have two sections of our municipal code that also bear on the changes to the general plan, where the property has been placed in that existing parks, golf courses, and open space category. One is what's commonly known as the Parks Initiative, and that is in effect, it was adopted by the City Council in 1996. It's in effect until November 5th, 2026, and that provides that any general plan amendment that would take land out of the existing parks, golf course, and open space category requires voter approval. And essentially what that means, if there were to be any use proposed other than open space, it would have to be approved by the voters. Another measure that's significant is the city urban restriction boundary, or curb, and that's also sometimes called the city SOAR boundary. And that is a line that was defined by a voter initiative passed also in 1996, and it set the line at what our sphere of influence was at the time, which is slightly larger than the city boundaries and basically coterminous with the Conejo Valley. And what the curb does, it precludes the city from approving urban development or extending urban services beyond that line, with a few limited exceptions. That measure expires December 31st, 2030. As some of you may know, the city received a notice of intent to file an initiative or to circulate an initiative petition to extend the sunset dates for both of those legislative actions to 2050. And that measure, so if the petitions are circulated and receive enough signatures, then they would be placed on the ballot, I believe probably the June 2016 ballot. So that is one way to extend the current expiration dates of those two measures. There is a possibility, a legal possibility that hasn't been fully analyzed yet for the city council itself to extend those measures, but we don't have any information on that. In addition to the Cosca mission and the city legislative steps, many of the properties that Cosca's acquired came with deed restrictions that also, which is a private covenant placed by the previous owner of the property that restricts the use of the property to open space. A good example of that is the many thousands of acres that Prudential donated to Cosca in the mid-1980s. And I'll be happy to answer questions.
Hey, thank you. That very comprehensive reprise of all the legislative measures that protect open space. Any members have questions of Mr. Prescott? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Prescott. We'll go on to the 2015-16 Cosca budget.
Thank you. The 2015-16 Cosca operating budget totals $1,150,789. The budget is shared 50-50 by the city and CRPD for an estimated contribution of $575,395 each. The capital improvement budget is $140,000, and the projects include construction of trail improvements, installation of kiosks and overlook benches, and some trailhead improvements. And I'm available for questions.
Any questions on the budget? I do have one question. If Cosca were to receive a grant or a donation of funds and wanted to use it for capital improvement somewhere, would the budget need to be adjusted, or is that part of the flexibility that would we have spending authority, in other words?
The budget would probably need to be adjusted, but yes, we could use it.
Okay. You don't have to wait for another 2 years to spend them.
No.
Okay.
Definitely not.
Yeah. Basically, it does not track what, for instance, in the state, you have to wait until the funds are appropriated before a state agency can use them, and that can sometimes take longer, even if there's a big donation somewhere.
Right. And the money would probably go into the Cosca Trust Fund or the Cosca or the Open Space Endowment Fund. So if it did, then we would just follow the city's finance protocol.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Kuba, do you have a report for us on ranger operations?
I do. I've got a couple things. We recently had a couple fires, and I'm going to try the other one. We're going to try and show a video, and we'll see how this goes. The Potrero fires was Saturday, November 7th. It burned in the Los Robles open space. The red line right there is actually our property line, and the blue line is the fire line. The white line would be the dozer line that was cut. The dozer line was cut on private property. The fire was late at night. By the time I got there around 3 a.m., there was no real flame that I saw, and got up there the next day and got these photos. But that's the area there that was on our property that actually burned. The Bannister fire, which was the one up in the Lang Ranch area, began on Wednesday, November 11th, around 5:30. And there were flying helicopters tonight, which was unusual for Ventura County Fire. But on both these fires, the fire department was rather nervous about predicted winds the next day. So they did fly at night. They did use dozer lines in the Lang Ranch area. It was see photos of those in a minute. I've never been on a fire line at night, so this was pretty exciting for me. And the fire department was actually tweeting. That's from the helicopter. They were tweeting pictures of the fire that night, which was fascinating too. So this is the next morning. It burned about 30 acres. That's one of the dozer lines, and you can see a little bit of till up on the left. And they're going to be coming back in a week or so and doing some handwork and cleaning that up. So that's the fire stuff that happened. And I'm really proud of the fire department. They worked with us very well. They called us immediately as soon as the fire started, made sure that myself or our representatives were out there protecting the ARC sites and other things. So really well done. Okay, and then further ranger operations.
While you're getting to that, I might add that they did consult both Cosca and the MRCA rangers on the ARC site locations out in the Lang Ranch open space. So it's nice to have the MRCA folks out there as well.
And that sensitivity to the resources. It's a different world. The fire departments are really looking to resource managers to assist in guiding their suppression activities.
Absolutely. Yeah, a very comfortable relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So recent ranger activity, and as always, I highlight some of the cute fuzzy stuff, but a lot of stuff you need to know too. We participated with the National Parks and Recreation Day, which is an event at Paramount Ranch. I know it doesn't look crowded there, but that's actually the very first 2 visitors, and they had over almost 1,000 kids there that day.
Did you have a height limit on visitors?
Anyway, former ranger Spider came out and brought out some of her critters, and so she's volunteering almost as much as she was when she was, almost as much as when she was really working. So this is really good. And we actually completed another trail in addition to the Trail Workday Trail, which would have been in this area is where the Trail Workday project was. This is the treatment plant here. The rangers have been working for about the last year when they had time to brush out and build this trail along this hill that goes from Elliott Peak over to near the CLU antenna. And it's a fantastic trail. I'm really excited about it because it's actually one of the first trails that we hiked out and looked at, and we said, this will be fantastic 20 years from now when we get it done. And here we are, only 7 years later, and it's done, and it's beautiful. It's a difficult trail to get to, but well worth the hike. So check that one out. Every year for the past few years, we've been participating with the Cal State Channel Islands Career Day. That has benefited us time and again with part-time staff. We've been able to hire students from the environmental major. 2 of those went on to become full-time employees with us. Ranger Carey went to Cal State Channel Islands and came up through that rank. So Channel Islands was a great resource for us, and the kids are awesome. CLU Environmental Club has offered to make seed balls for us. They're going to make about 2,000 seed balls that we'll have on hand. Now, this project was proposed a couple months ago, and they're going to make the seed balls, and then we're going to place them out on the dozer lines out on Lang Ranch. So things match up. That's a seed ball sitting out on the soil waiting for the rain. Those are the ones on the water line break at Wildwood from last year. Okay, the big push right now has been V-ditch cleaning, and I wanted to show you what they look like before and after cleaning, and what the rangers have been kind of doing for the past 8 months or so on V-ditches. They've been pulling out a lot of debris out of the stream beds where we're able to. Most of the natural areas where it's not going to be affecting anything, we just leave it, but where it is going to potentially clog something up. We've been working with CAL FIRE on these projects, and they've been, I don't know how those guys don't get tons of poison oak, but they seem to come back the next day. And this is a big cleanup. Judging by the sun, the rangers were able to do that in about 15 minutes. No, I'm kidding. That was almost a whole day project there. So one of those pictures is one day, the next picture is the next day. We are getting prepared for El Nino stuff. We've got about, I think, 1.5 miles of wattles, which are those hay bale things that we'll put out for catching sediment. And I think we're up in the 8,000 range for sandbags right now. We're working very closely with the city for sandbag availability for the public, and they're putting those in the urban parks and other places so that the public can access sandbags if needed. And we're ready for whatever we need to do as well. We also participated in the Great Shakeout earlier in October, and we used that opportunity to check all of our earthquake preparedness boxes, make sure that the batteries are all stocked and everything, escape routes. The rangers look at open space in terms of what would happen if there was a major earthquake and what they would have to do if there was people in the park and such. Couple of our rangers are really, really good climbers. We had some graffiti at Wildwood up at the falls. That's what the top of the falls look like. And if you see the ranger there in the middle, roped in and scraping out some graffiti. Yeah, thank you. I asked Ranger Kevin to get a nice picture of the mesa the other night, and he did. So that's our sunset picture for this month. So I'm available for questions if needed.
Yeah. May I ask you a question? Yeah, I appreciate all you're doing that. Does he get overtime for 3 o'clock in the morning, Joe?
No, he's an exempt employee.
Oh, he's exempt.
I got to see helicopters fly at night. That's well worth getting up there.
Well, I appreciate all that you do, and it's such a diverse job you have. I don't know how you would exactly make a job description for that. It's like Mr. Everything, I think. Well, one thing that you reminded me about the fire and the flood control measures, that Scully property that we looked at there in Dos Vientos, where he's right at the end of the street and he had flooding before. Is that Cosca property or is that still city property, or do we know?
It's city.
Well, this is not the appropriate venue then to ask the question, but if we're getting an El Nino, I just wonder, do we think that property is protected, or should you not be making a comment on that?
We don't have that information.
Okay.
I mean, our staff doesn't.
Okay, thank you. And one other thing, are we into board comment now?
Were there any other questions to Mr. Kuba on the operations update? Great job, Mr. Kuba. We'll go on to board member comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had one thing. When we were in that strategic plan, that is such a long, complicated, I mean, that's 20-some pages of goals and objectives and different iterations and subtopics, and it took me a long time just to get through it. And do you have to, I mean, there's so much there. Is that typical of an organization such as ours to have such a broad, multi-part statement of goals and objectives that you have to check off every so often?
It's pretty typical of a strategic plan, yes.
Is it?
For this type of an agency. Our agency is pretty small staff-wise, though, so it may need to be adjusted at some point.
I mean, it will take you so long to go through that, and I notice, a lot of things are for the future. I'm wondering when the future is going to arrive.
Well, we planned it for a 30-year timeline. But what you're seeing on that list is the ongoing items and just the items of year 1 through 4. So the board will have to revisit it in the next few years and see what you think are the priorities and how you want to schedule things.
I just wonder if the value of it is worth the time and effort to go through all those, categories of different things. Just an observation. Thank you.
If I could just comment, I think it's tremendously valuable to give us the focus we need to do the work efficiently and do the most important things.
Okay. Thank you. Any other board member comments? Hearing none, we have our next meeting will be February 10th in the next year, 2016. So thank you all and happy holidays to everyone.